When the human general emerged from Cryo sleep, the war had ended in an hour. Chapter 1: A World in Crisis. The year was 2150, a time when humanity's dreams of progress and prosperity seemed on the verge of realization. Technological marvels adorned the skyline, and scientific breakthroughs promised to solve the world's most pressing challenges. But beneath the veneer of progress, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The arrival of the Xarnarians, a formidable alien empire, shattered the illusion of peace and prosperity. With their advanced technology and insatiable thirst for conquest, they descended upon Earth like a relentless storm, leaving destruction and despair in their wake. Cities crumbled under the weight of their onslaught, armies were decimated, and the cries of the innocent filled the air. Humanity, once united in its pursuit of progress, now found itself facing an existential threat unlike any it had ever known. General Alexander Hayes, a seasoned military commander, watched with growing unease as the world around him descended into chaos. He had dedicated his life to defending his country and protecting its people, but nothing could have prepared him for the scale of the devastation wrought by the Xarnarians. As cities burned and the death toll rose, General Hayes knew that drastic action was needed to stem the tide of destruction. With grim determination, he made the decision to enter Cryo sleep, preserving himself for a future when humanity might need him most. With a heavy heart, he said goodbye to his loved ones and sealed himself in the Cryo chamber, knowing that when he awoke, the world might be a very different place. Little did he know that his sacrifice would become the stuff of legend, a symbol of hope in humanity's darkest hour. And little did he know that when he emerged from Cryo sleep, the war would have ended in an hour, but the journey to rebuild would be just beginning. Chapter 2: A Century of Darkness. As General Alexander Hayes lay in Cryo sleep, unaware of the passage of time, the world outside continued to spiral into chaos. The war with the Xarnarians raged on, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. In the century that followed, humanity endured unimaginable hardships. Cities lay in ruins, economies collapsed, and entire nations crumbled under the weight of the alien invasion. The once thriving world had become a shadow of its former self, gripped by fear and despair. Yet, amidst the darkness, there were flickers of hope. Resistance movements sprung up across the globe, rallying those who refused to submit to the alien oppressors. Brave men and women fought valiantly, risking everything in the struggle for freedom. But as the years passed, it became increasingly clear that victory against the Xarnarians was impossible. Their technology was far superior, their numbers seemingly endless. Humanity was fighting a losing battle, and hope was in short supply. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface of the Earth, General Hayes remained in Cryo sleep, his body preserved in a state of suspended animation. His sacrifice had become a legend, a symbol of resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. Generations came and went, their struggles and sacrifices etched into the fabric of history. Yet, the memory of General Hayes lived on, a beacon of hope for those who dared to dream of a better future. And as the years stretched on, there were those who wondered if humanity would ever emerge from the darkness, if the world would ever know peace again. But little did they know that deep within the earth, General Hayes slept, his presence a silent promise that one day, the light would return. Chapter 3: The Discovery. In the year 2250, a team of scientists made a remarkable discovery amidst the rubble of what was once a bustling metropolis. While excavating the ruins of an old military base, buried beneath layers of debris and forgotten memories, they stumbled upon a long-forgotten Cryo chamber. The chamber, sealed for over a century, contained within it the preserved form of General Alexander Hayes. His body, untouched by time, lay suspended in a state of suspended animation, his features frozen in an expression of serene determination. As the scientists worked feverishly to revive him, news of the discovery spread like wildfire across the globe. The legend of General Hayes, long thought to be little more than a myth, had suddenly become reality. For the first time in a century, there was hope. Hope that perhaps, with General Hayes at their side, humanity could turn the tide against the Xarnarians and reclaim their world. As the days passed and General Hayes began to stir from his slumber, the world held its breath in anticipation. Would he be the savior they so desperately needed? Or had too much time passed for him to make a difference? Little did they know that General Hayes, once awakened, would prove to be a force to be reckoned with, a symbol of resilience and determination in the face of insurmountable odds. And little did they know that his awakening would mark the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's struggle for survival. Chapter 4: A New Hope. As General Alexander Hayes emerged from cryo sleep, he found himself greeted by a world vastly different from the one he had left behind. The once thriving cities now lay in ruins, their streets silent and empty save for the occasional scavenger searching for scraps of food or supplies. Yet, despite the devastation, there was a sense of renewed hope in the air. The discovery of General Hayes had sparked a flicker of optimism among the survivors, a belief that perhaps, with his leadership, they could turn the tide against the Xarnarians and reclaim their world. General Hayes wasted no time in rallying the remaining forces of humanity. With his strategic genius and unwavering determination, he began to formulate a plan to push back against the alien invaders and reclaim what had been lost. But even as he prepared for the coming battle, General Hayes knew that victory would not come easily. The Xarnarians were a formidable foe, their technology far superior to anything humanity had ever seen. It would take more than just courage and determination to defeat them. It would take cunning, skill, and perhaps a little luck. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, General Hayes and his forces trained tirelessly, honing their skills and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Every moment was precious, every decision weighed carefully as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. But amidst the preparations for war, there were moments of quiet reflection. General Hayes found himself haunted by memories of the past, of loved ones lost, of battles fought and won, and of the sacrifices made by so many in the name of freedom. Yet, even in the darkest moments, there was a glimmer of hope. For General Hayes knew that as long as there was life, there was hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a world free from tyranny and oppression. And so, with his heart heavy with the weight of responsibility, General Hayes prepared to lead humanity into battle once more. For when the human general emerged from cryo sleep, he brought with him not just the promise of victory, but the hope of a new beginning for all of mankind. Chapter 5: The Turning Point. As General Alexander Hayes and his forces prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the Xarnarians, tension hung heavy in the air. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and the weight of that responsibility was felt by all. The turning point came unexpectedly, on a day when the skies were dark with the smoke of battle, and the ground shook with the thunder of explosions. General Hayes, leading his troops from the front lines, received a message from an unexpected source: a group of Xarnarian dissidents, who had grown disillusioned with their empire's aggressive expansionism. These dissidents, led by a courageous Xarnarian named Kayla, reached out to General Hayes with an offer of alliance. They shared vital intelligence about the weaknesses in the Xarnarian defenses, and offered their assistance in the fight against their own kind. At first, General Hayes was skeptical. Could he trust these former enemies, who had spent decades fighting against humanity? But as he listened to their pleas for peace, and saw the sincerity in their eyes, he realized that they shared a common goal: the desire to end the senseless bloodshed and forge a new path forward for both their species. With the aid of the Xarnarian dissidents, General Hayes formulated a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Xarnarian Empire. They would target key strategic locations, exploiting the weaknesses in the enemy's defenses and cutting off their supply lines. The plan was risky, fraught with danger at every turn, but General Hayes knew that it was their best chance at turning the tide of the war. With the Xarnarian dissidents at their side, they launched a daring assault on the enemy's stronghold, fighting tooth and nail for every inch of ground gained. And as the battle raged on, it became clear that their plan was working. The Xarnarians, caught off guard by the sudden ferocity of humanity's counterattack, began to falter. Their once invincible armies crumbled under the relentless assault, and their hold on Earth began to slip. The turning point had come at last, and as General Hayes looked out upon the battlefield, he knew that victory was within their grasp. With courage, determination, and the unexpected aid of former enemies, humanity had turned the tide of the war and taken its first steps towards a brighter future. Chapter 6: The Final Battle. The stage was set for the final confrontation between humanity and the Xarnarian invaders. General Alexander Hayes stood at the forefront of his forces, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon where the enemy awaited. The air crackled with tension as both sides prepared for the decisive clash that would determine the fate of the world. With the aid of the Xarnarian dissidents, General Hayes had formulated a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Xarnarian Empire. Their goal was simple yet audacious: to deliver a crippling blow that would shatter the enemy's resolve and secure victory for humanity once and for all. As the first rays of dawn broke over the battlefield, the sound of gunfire echoed in the air, signaling the beginning of the final battle. With a roar that shook the earth, General Hayes led his forces forward, charging headlong into the heart of the enemy's defenses. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, with both sides fighting tooth and nail for supremacy. Explosions lit up the sky, casting an eerie glow over the blood-soaked battlefield as soldiers clashed in a desperate struggle for survival. General Hayes fought with a ferocity born of desperation, his every move calculated to maximize the impact of their assault. He rallied his troops with words of encouragement, urging them to fight on despite the overwhelming odds stacked against them. But as the battle raged on, it became clear that victory would not come easily. The Xarnarians fought with a tenacity that belied their numbers, their superior technology, and unwavering determination posing a formidable challenge to humanity's efforts. Yet, amidst the chaos and destruction, there were moments of triumph. With each passing hour, humanity gained ground, pushing the enemy back and reclaiming territory that had long been lost. The tide of the battle was turning in their favor, and victory seemed within reach. And then, in a moment that would be etched into the annals of history, General Hayes delivered the final blow that would seal humanity's victory. With a well-coordinated strike, his forces breached the enemy's defenses, infiltrating their stronghold and striking at the heart of their command structure. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded away, General Hayes stood amidst the ruins of the enemy's stronghold, his chest heaving with exertion, and his eyes alight with triumph. The war was over, and humanity had emerged victorious against all odds. But even as they celebrated their hard-won victory, General Hayes knew that the true challenge lay ahead, the challenge of rebuilding and forging a new future for humanity. With courage, determination, and the indomitable spirit that had carried them through the darkest of times, they would rise from the ashes and build a world worthy of the sacrifices made in its defense. Chapter 7: A New Beginning. With the final battle won and the Xarnarian invaders driven from Earth, General Alexander Hayes stood amidst the rubble of the battlefield, his heart heavy with the weight of the sacrifices made and the challenges that lay ahead. But amidst the devastation, there was also a glimmer of hope, the promise of a new beginning for humanity. As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded away, General Hayes turned his attention to the task of rebuilding. With the help of his fellow soldiers and the support of the global community, they began the long and arduous process of restoring what had been lost. The first priority was to provide aid and assistance to the millions of people who had been displaced by the war. Temporary shelters were erected, food and medical supplies were distributed, and efforts were made to reunite families torn apart by the chaos of battle. But even as they worked to address the immediate needs of the survivors, General Hayes knew that true healing would require more than just material assistance. The scars of war ran deep, both physical and emotional, and it would take time for humanity to recover from the trauma they had endured. With this in mind, General Hayes launched a series of initiatives aimed at promoting reconciliation and healing. Counseling services were provided to those struggling with the psychological toll of the war, and community-building programs were established to foster a sense of unity and solidarity among the survivors. Meanwhile, efforts were also underway to rebuild the infrastructure that had been destroyed during the conflict. Cities were reconstructed, roads and bridges were repaired, and efforts were made to restore essential services such as electricity, clean water, and sanitation. But perhaps the most important task of all was to ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. General Hayes and his fellow leaders worked tirelessly to establish systems of governance that were transparent, accountable, and responsive to the needs of the people. With the help of the Xarnarian dissidents, who had chosen to remain on Earth and aid in the rebuilding efforts, humanity began to chart a new course forward. Old prejudices and animosities were set aside as they worked together towards a common goal: the creation of a world where all beings, regardless of race or origin, could live in peace and harmony. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, General Hayes watched with pride as the world around him began to transform. The scars of war remained, but they were now a testament to humanity's resilience and determination to overcome even the greatest of challenges. For General Alexander Hayes and his fellow soldiers, the war may have ended, but their journey was far from over. As they looked towards the future, they knew that the road ahead would be difficult, filled with obstacles and setbacks. But with courage, determination, and the unwavering belief in the indomitable spirit of humanity, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For in the end, it was not the battles they had won or the enemies they had defeated that defined them, but the strength and courage they had shown in the face of adversity. And as they embarked on this new chapter in their journey, they did so with hope in their hearts and the promise of a brighter tomorrow guiding their way.